January Environmental Commission meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Chair Horn,
Here.
Vice Chair Seraphin,
Here.
Secretary Seraphin here, Alderman Craig.
Here.
Do I need to?
If you want to note that the city forester Tom Ria is here, and then there should be a checkbox for me. Planner Marion.
That's already checked.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, how do you spell the last name?
R-I-H-A.
All right, next we'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll open the citizen comment period at 7:02. Not seeing anyone present to make a comment, we will close it at 7:02. Agenda item 3, approval of minutes from our December 6th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carried. Minutes are approved. Do we want to jump, are you, Tom, here for just the Arbor Day business?
But there's no rush. It's fine.
Okay,
I'll probably stay for the whole meeting, so.
okay. All right, we'll go in order then.
Yep.
Unfinished business, item A, review of articles for the City of Franklin newsletter. I think Marion had forwarded the previous Don't Salt Your Driveway, Salt Your Margarita article to get republished. Have we heard any more on dates at all for the future?
No, typically we get a list of expected dates, but that hasn't been made available. I think it's just quarterly. So if the commission wants to put forward some materials for publication, your next meeting would probably be appropriate for whatever, and then that would go to like the spring, summer timeframe. I did get a question from Lisa about Arbor Day. So the presumed date is, we'll confirm it today, but they're planning on publishing that with the usual blurb. So
This upcoming newsletter?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay. Yep, we can firm that up. Any other thoughts or proposed articles from anyone at this point? Okay. If folks have things, we can discuss at the February meeting. Item B, we had the referral to the Common Council on NOMO May of the MMSD materials, I think it was.
Yep, I'm going to put together a council action sheet for the first council meeting in February for this item. That seems timely for the discussion to return. So I'm not sure if Commissioner Seraphin and Commissioner Craig, you were here when we started this process. There was a discussion of adopting a resolution around NOMO May here in Franklin. The commission reviewed the proposal and determined that there wouldn't necessarily be the kinds of benefits in this community that are desired, and they'd rather focus on the use of native plantings and landscaping, et cetera. And because the time period that is where citations are issued for weeds is very short. So the burden of changing it didn't merit the benefits, basically. But then they've been doing continual research to provide new recommendations, and Common Council requested mowing practices from this commission. So that's where the MMSD materials came from, and those will go forward at the next meeting. So, yeah.
Okay, so, perhaps this item will be done for us?
Perhaps. I just have a question. So the topic was driven from problems that we've had with people not taking care of weeds. Is that where the original intention came from, or?
So a number of residents in the community approached Common Council because there's been this movement around No Mow May as a pollinator benefit. But the feeling was that because Franklin has a pretty strict weed ordinance that gets enforced, there's some complexity with like changing the date that it starts on because it's May 15th. There's a state commissioner that's enabled to do the enforcement for that. There's quite a few details that went into it. And because Franklin, they didn't want to encourage kind of like gnarly looking lawns, but rather have like high quality native plantings. Most of the species that come into a lawn when it's just left fallow are not native plants typically. It's dandelions and other things that are characterized as like candy for pollinators. They're not considered the best foods and they're not desired by a lot of bees. So they had expert testimony from some folks from the Ware Nature Center. There was a review of articles.
No, I mean, this is my field. I understand.
Okay.
That. I don't think there's a benefit to No Mow May at all. So I was
Okay.
May's not that you yeah. Regardless of all that, I was just curious if it sounded to me like the whole concept of it came from a problem with people not taking care of their weeds, but you're saying that's not the case.
Sorry, that was a...
That's it. That's my only question.
The other.
Okay. Then I would have follow-up if that was the case, but no, I'm good with moving on and getting rid of the No Mow May concept in general.
So sorry, we were going to say you'll present in the next meeting?
The item will go to Common Council at the first meeting in February, which I believe is on the 6th. I will be sending forward the MMSD materials. I don't have a presentation currently prepared. I'm hoping that I can put together a council action sheet that will present the discussion. And then if they want more information or feedback, then they might refer it back to you, but I'm not totally sure I'll be physically present at the meeting. So
is the idea to put forth a different concept besides No Mow May that actually is beneficial to, okay.
Yep. And
that's coming out of the UDO and recommendations that other people have made?
the UDO doesn't make any particular recommendations. There are some by reference incorporations of best practices in terms of excluding prohibited species or, broadly native plants are encouraged in certain kinds of contexts. But currently there is no requirement or landscaping standard that is specific to native plants. The updated UDO gets into that a little bit more through the mitigation guide that is being drafted as part of that process, but currently there's not like recommendations or standards. So if you wanted to make recommendations or standards, this mowing practices was intended at least partly to respond to some of the what would be the best practices for the city and city-owned land related to this, and then make the information public. So
Yeah, that was the question that came back to us from Common Council after we had said we're not recommending that this No Mow May be adopted. But then that was one of the questions that was bounced back to us, recommendations for mowing and maintaining of city properties.
I mean, because I certainly think there are things that we could make recommendations about that would, like mowing your grass at a higher level, mowing no more than, a third of it at a time. Those kinds of things that just promote a healthy stand of turf. So it's able to outcompete a lot of the weeds that you don't want in there. I mean, we could do something like that if that's what we're talking about, is trying to provide something like that to them. Or if we're just talking about, do we just take No Mow May out of the May newsletter and the
it's not in the newsletter. Like, this was a citizen initiative
Oh, okay.
So, and then the information that they're getting is from MMSD in terms of like maintenance of conservation areas, how to mow them, those kinds of best practices. At present, there isn't like a coordinated mowing program for them that's being run by.
So we're not even talking about turf grass. We're talking about mowing down.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a conservation area, would it have like native grasses in it?
Correct. So that would be actually probably valuable, is to talk about turf grass and like things that people could do differently in order to.
I guess I see those as two completely separate topics. Because how you
because
take care of your lawn and your mowing grass versus how the city should take care of a conservation area that needs to be mowed periodically are going to be two completely different recommendations and schedules. So I'm still not clear, like, why we don't want them combined. The guidance should be clear and separate. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't, trying to recall what all was in that MMSD package.
I can send it
I don't know
back
if
around.
It covered turf.
It might have
lawns.
been so long.
That was sent to us like 4 months ago, 5 months
Yeah.
ago or something, right?
Yes.
I can look back.
Number of months ago, but,
Okay.
yeah, depending on the second quarterly newsletter, that could be timely for an article on homeowners and
At one point, I
efficient ways to
feel like I
maintain.
read No Mo May in the Franklin newsletter before I was present on this, and maybe that's where I got this in my head. I'm really just trying to understand what this agenda item is and
Yeah.
what they're looking for, or who's looking for it.
Yeah. No, I think it was basically some citizens came to the Common Council about, hey, let's do this, or what about doing this? And then it was bounced to us. We did research for probably 8 months or so, and then put the recommendation back that, no, this no mow may really isn't as beneficial to the environment. We can promote more with wildflowers, native plantings, things like that, which at some of our events in the past, we have given away native seeds and information. Wild Ones have attended, things like that. The group Wild Ones. And not that our
Not the
commission
citizens.
members are Wild Ones, but
Yeah.
no, so we've been trying to encourage alternative practices, methodologies, things like that. And going forward, we can continue to do that. And just not promoting or adopting this no mow may philosophy. There's other practices that are more beneficial for the environment and the birds and the insects and the butterflies and everything.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, well, let us know if Common Council has any other feedback to us on this. Otherwise, correct, other than Marion to get a package together for Common Council. And item C, the update on the Environmental Commission participation in the Unified Development Ordinance Task Force / rewrite. I don't know if there's been anything in the last month, or
I don't think there's anything that the commission has any input on. I think it's a lot of, right now, it's more zoning, I think, is the next steps.
So at present, the project has been on hold because we needed to do a budget amendment to address some of the overages that have occurred due to turnover in the planning department and for a variety of reasons. That budget amendment included a mitigation guide, so some of the review that this commission did was of proposals related to actually having guidance for how to do mitigation when natural resource impacts are necessary. So that area of the UDO is probably the place where the largest amount of change has occurred in terms of the actual standards within the ordinance. So there will very likely be a future meeting of the full task force with the 2 members. Hopefully you'll be able to join. We do not have a schedule yet. but the mitigation guide is currently in draft form. If you want to read the full draft ordinance, that is, if not now available, it will shortly be available on the website and also at our counter to look at the text of the ordinance, but the mitigation guide isn't ready yet. So basically at this point, we're about to complete a draft of the full ordinance, and then we'll be going through a public review process and a conversation about that. We plan to have a few kind of open houses and those kinds of things, and the task force will be integral to that as well. But because we had to go through this budget amendment process, we're also amending the schedule. So hopefully I'll be able to bring a new schedule with me to the next meeting. So the task force will be meeting. I do not anticipate there being a new meeting by the consultants with this commission. But if you have commentary and you want to talk about that, this agenda item is your opportunity to do feedback once the process starts again, to say we think this is important. And then obviously the task force. So there's also going to be a citizen group convened to help kind of be like advisors. So there's been quite a few changes. But yeah, we're hoping to finish the project this year. So we're very glad that it's moving ahead.
Timeline for finishing, I believe, is November
Yeah.
this year. So
to be adopted.
Yes.
So will the mitigation guide be completed prior to adoption, of course?
Yeah, it's part of the
Is
scope of
that target, what's the timeline on that?
I don't have my common council packet because that had the like kind of a
There's a Gantt
rough
chart,
kind of
yeah.
guide as far as okay, in 6 months' time this should be done. In 8 months' time this should be done. I don't have that like physically on me, so I can
Okay.
get that to you.
I'll have to look at the text that's available, and yeah, that would be great. It was in the council packet. It may be amended to it will be amended to include some of the public input that's going to be added to the scope. But I believe the draft of the mitigation guide is like mostly done. I'm just not clear where we are with it, and we're trying to work backwards to like figure out where we have been, because the project had to get set aside for a variety of reasons.
Well,
in
we're
the fall.
both on that task force, so they just haven't set dates yet.
Correct.
To even meet. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything either, but,
Yep, and you will be both notified. So
okay.
the other planner, the Regulo Martinez Montilva, is the planner that is leading the project, and you'll see an email from him the
Okay.
next time there's an event planned.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
you
No action.
Moving on to new business, Environmental Commission involvement in Arbor Day 2024, which is usually, I'll say, the first Saturday of May.
Mhm.
And I think, Amy, you're the newest one. I don't know if you know what we've done, but
That was my first meeting last year.
Oh, was it?
I attended,
Okay.
And I
Oh, okay.
did that in
yes,
the
yes,
library.
yes. Okay. Yep. You were there. So we have the list of trees and shrubs to go through if we want to pick out some of those. And then Tom can get the order in and provide us any other pertinent information that you'd like to share with us, and then we can talk about if there's, well, we've got a little bit of time yet, but if we want any other activities going on during the event. Do we need to pick the date or reaffirm the date, or?
I believe the date was going to be May 4th.
That would be the first Saturday, so.
So
Yeah, we'll just have to take that to council for the official proclamation and for our Tree City information.
Okay.
So May 4th, 10 to 12 is typically what we do.
Yep, I believe that is correct.
Last year we had white cedar, serviceberry, swamp white oak, which were the trees, and then we had 1 bundle of American hazelnut and 2 of high bush cranberry. The only thing I might suggest would maybe, instead of doing 2 cranberries, do like a sugar maple. Instead
Can
of
we do
oak
a river birch
or river birch? Yeah, something a little
instead
bit.
of like a swamp white oak?
Yeah, the oaks don't really seem to sell that well. Everyone's looking for something colorful, so they do have sugar maples available.
Sugar maples.
The white cedars are always a big seller. Everyone kind of wants those, but
When we look at the evergreens, can we see that previous slide? Is there any other swap out of, or maybe even do 2 evergreens? I noticed that most people wanted an evergreen. Those went.
I would say maybe go with the white cedar and white spruce then. The pines really don't do well in the clay soil that we have here. They prefer more sandy soil, same with the balsam firs.
Okay.
And I think we have done white spruce in the past.
I just know a lot of people wanted those, and they were gone the first
Yeah,
half hour.
everyone wants the arborvitae.
And the swamp white oaks.
And they want a
were
bunch
still
of
left
them
at
so
the
they
end.
can
Yeah.
plant them for privacy screening.
But I do think river birch would be a nice option, and if people are looking for, or say they have a waterlogged area.
Yeah, it might be
That could-
something to switch out into the serviceberry. I've had a hard time getting serviceberry to grow.
So you're suggesting still do swamp white oak?
No, I would say probably do sugar maple instead of swamp white oak, and then river birch swap out for serviceberry. Then we can add white spruce.
Do you ever do the choke cherries?
We have not.
What was the next slide? What were the other options?
This was the rest of the order form, which I think you guys have done hazelnuts in the past.
Yeah, we did
Yep.
that last year.
Yes,
Witch hazel's a really nice one too.
it is. Yep.
I have some witch hazels.
And also the shrubs too, I think were.
Witch hazel, 9 bark.
popular. Yeah.
Witch hazel can be kind of small tree almost, but 9 bark's a nice yellow fall color too.
Yeah, I don't know if we've done those previously, but yeah, I like 9 bark.
Do we add that to the list?
So we got white cedar and white spruce for evergreens, we're thinking then. And then serviceberry is going to be river birch. The swamp white oak will be sugar maple. And then we had American hazelnut and then 2 bundles of high bush cranberry. We want to add witch hazel and maybe just do 1 of cranberry. Or just
Why don't you do 9 bark and witch hazel instead
9
of
bark and
cranberry?
we can do that too. Yep,
Variety.
sure. And then keep the hazelnut.
I'm indifferent. I think a lot of people were asking, like you said, for smaller
Smaller, the shrub.
Yeah.
bush, shrubby type, and yeah, I think 9 bark's a nicer looking plant than the high bush cranberry.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have more, maybe like a stream. I don't know. I felt like it was more residential people showing up, and they were putting it in lawns and stuff, rather than, oh, I've got a big farm and I want to do my fence line.
Or wanting to like soak up where water's being retained in a corner part of the lot. It's I want to like kind of spruce up the curb appeal of the home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
was
like
more
a witch-
vanity than it was
Yeah.
utilitarian sort
Yeah.
of thing.
So it's nice if they can do that too, though, with native species. I don't think that's a problem, but that's why I think witch hazel and 9 bark are probably more suited for that.
Sure, just go with 2. 2 shrubs.
We'd have 3 then. We'd have hazelnut, witch hazel, and 9 bark. So it'd be 3 bundles of shrubs and then 4 bundles of trees.
I think that's fine because once the trees were gone, people were like, well, okay, I'll take a shrub. And they were still, kind of looked at it as a positive because they were leaving with something.
Yeah.
So it wasn't I know that the the first crack at, the people that showed up at 10 a.m. were like tree, but then, it was okay, I can do a shrub and I can find a place to plant this. It wasn't a like, ew, no. It was okay, fine. If these are my options now, and when I showed up at 11:30, then they were still very willing to take into their, put into the ground at their homes.
All right, are we set? I can check with Wild Ones to see if they would like to join in. I don't recall if they were there last year. I know MMSD was there with their rain barrels and plants, but I presume they're going to another suburb this year, so they won't be back. I don't know if there's other groups. Again, we don't need to decide tonight, but if folks want to think about any other participants or activities to go on. I presume they'll be also doing the city cleanup activities again?
Yeah, that's typically can schedule that at any time with, I think, keeping Greater Milwaukee beautiful.
Okay, so that brings more people to the event. And I can check with the library about having an inside room in the event of blizzard. But otherwise, yeah, we're kind of messy, so.
Now you just jinxed us.
It wasn't beautiful out last time, if I recall.
Right.
Just
Hit and miss.
rain.
It was
Yeah.
rain
I can
and
deal with the rain.
cold. Yeah.
No wonder
When
we
you
held
start
it-
throwing around the B word.
No wonder we held it in April and there was like a snowstorm where the trees were coming from, so we had to postpone it for a later date so we could
Oh, boy.
get the trees.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll check with the library to see perhaps a room and or at least tables and chairs and whatnot. Okay, anything else, Arbor Day? All right, item B. Our meeting dates for the upcoming year. I think I hit our usual end of the month Wednesday. If anybody, I haven't checked against holidays or anything. I don't know if there's any conflicts, but if somebody sees a conflict or major event that's going on, we can always try and move dates around. Otherwise,
So February's date would be the 21st.
28th.
Oh, it's the last. Okay. I
I
apologize.
think it's the, what is it?
The 4th.
Fourth Wednesday of the month.
Yep.
Ah,
And the 21st would be Common Council got moved to that Wednesday. Too.
Oh, because of the election
Correct.
in February.
okay.
Yep.
So February 28th.
Yep, February 28th. And then item C,
No action here.
just, refer to the list of dates in the,
Yep, I will provide the list to the clerk's office. They prepare the citywide calendar that's posted on the website, the billboard outside, et cetera. So, and they usually need to be reminded that the December meeting is different, the November and December meetings. So,
okay, and then item C under new business, creation of a combined parks and environmental commission.
yep. So what you received in your packet is work product by me and by the city attorney Jesse Wazalowski. Just researching what are the enabling statutes for this commission and for the Parks Commission to kind of get a better handle on what their actual roles are. So it basically the Parks Commission is enabled by state law and has a fiduciary duty, so they are responsible for making an accounting or handling making a recommendation related to the budget of the parks and city-owned lands every October, according to state law, which is roughly in line with our local budget process. And then they also have local duties related to the administration of the parks. So they make the rules for the parks. They have an approval power over certain aspects of facilities in the parks, donations, etc. State law actually includes a discussion of the city forester's duties as it relates to the Parks Commission. Parks Commission. So technically, Tom's purview over the parks is through that commission. And then Environmental Commission does not have a similar state enabling law. However, in our local ordinances, it's almost exactly the same kind of codification of your duties in the municipal code, but then you have an additional duty and power to make a recommendation related to environmental impacts in the city. So if a development proposal requires the natural resource special exception process that some of you have been part of the review of, then you are the first reviewer and recommending body on those applications. And so that just sort of the background information is provided here for you. I think it's as I'm working through this, I think it's important to note that this commission actually has, as part of its municipal code duties, a role to write grants or to work on finding funding for city facilities, but where would that funding go? It's not really accounted for in the ordinances. So this is the work product so far. We're kind of working through to what extent it makes sense. Because, I also learned that in the past, the Parks Commission and Environmental Commission were a single body, and that's changed a few times over the years. So at this point, it's not clear what the next best step would be, but it seems like there might be some rationale to continue exploring this. So, and I would like to, continue to gather your thoughts and hear your concerns about it. So I don't know if you have any feedback on the research provided so far or any questions.
How much would this alleviate as far as workload for you? Because I know you have to prepare for this and for parks. So how much would this, the combination of the two entities, would that alleviate, this is going to free up another 2 hours in a work week or a month? Or what would the plus for you be in the joining of the two boards?
For me, it would be negligible, not totally negligible, but not as much as it would impact our administrator. So Gail is responsible for a lot of the sort of administrative duties related to the commission, the minutes, the compiling of the record, publication of agendas, compiling the packets when we were doing paper packets, which we have stopped doing for this commission over a long period of time and recently stopped doing for Parks Commission. That was actually a pretty substantial process that we've eliminated. So some people don't love not getting the paper packets, but it has made a big difference. In terms of my time, there are other ways to address some of the things that I'm doing that aren't necessarily best aligned with my job title and position here at the city, that are kind of part of this discussion as well, but more on the park side. They do a lot of permitting that the commission is responsible for, and on the Parks Commission side, I'm responsible for compiling that agenda, processing all of the permits, preparing them for presentation, et cetera, and that's something that in most cases, either those permits could be done administratively and don't need to go to a commission, or that process could be handled by a dedicated parks permitting person, which it seems like maybe there's a need to do that. So we're having a separate conversation about the structure of the overall park system, but this in terms of having environmental guidance over the parks, because they are in the newest park will be a conservancy. The Franklin Woods is a conservancy. There's quite a few portions of the park system that are conservation lands. there's a lot of good reasons to at least have your input, if not literally combine the two commissions. So, yeah.
Okay, I just want to, because if it's a case where your workload becomes significant, where you say it's negligible, okay, that's one thing. But if it becomes a very significant change as far as what you're able to do in a typical work week, that I think would be a very large component as far as deciding, like, okay, well, how are we best served as a commission? How is the city best served in your time to, being put forward to boards and commissions and things like that?
What I would like ultimately to achieve is some of the consolidation will improve the administrative load, like that work that needs to be done, and then having someone to do the administrative pieces so that you have someone who's more focused on policy. Because when I'm dividing my attention between the two, the administrative pieces must occur. The policy pieces, doing some of the research, advancing things, those are a little bit more flexible, and that's why it takes me 4 months to get things to Common Council and that kind of thing, whereas you guys have to meet monthly, if that makes sense. So in terms of setting priorities, to take those duties, consolidate them, and try to just make it better. I'm not sure where we're going to end up with this, but it will impact my time through like a series of impacting other people's time, if that makes sense. So, yeah. But Gail puts in a lot of time for you guys. I know you don't see her here, but it's a lot. So.
Okay, questions, thoughts? We'll talk more again next meeting, or more research?
Yep. I might not have it on the agenda next meeting because I'm not totally sure where I'm going to end up with. I'm hoping I'll be at a point where I'm in the process of drafting like an overall like recommendation instead of memos and things, but I want to keep you appraised of the research that I'm doing. So if you are not interested and just want to see it at the end, that's also fine, but this helps me think. So
What's the attitude of the membership of the parks?
Parks, yeah.
Are they like, no, don't bring them over here, or is it we'd love to have more people, more voices, a little bit more, and trying to that consolidation of efforts, so that way it's not like, hey, you're doing like another meeting. It becomes very much let's make this more streamlined, let's be more efficient, let's be smarter with our time and our resources, or are they, we got this, and they can just play over there and figure their stuff out?
I think they are not opposed to the idea, but also not excited about it, frankly. Some of this is because this commission, it's been very difficult to recruit for, and Parks Commission also, we never have that problem. People always want to serve on that commission. Sorry, folks. You guys are wonderful, and we really appreciate your time, but it's you're not the cool kids. So
How dare you?
I'm so sorry. I am loopy. You're wonderful, and
Mom says it.
I think like
What is the draw to the Parks and Rec Commission?
pickleball is a big thing. There's like multiple people that got involved because of their interest in pickleball. The people use the parks and like see them, like the Environmental Commission. I think people don't really know what you do, and it doesn't have a tangible impact on public infrastructure. So to the extent that Parks Commission is like, they're making recommendations about site plans for parks, which, by the way, you would probably have really excellent insight into. They're making recommendations about capital infrastructure for the park system, those kinds of things. So in this commission, your powers don't include that, so it's not as sexy. So, but I do think it would be appropriate to incorporate some of this expertise into that body for a few reasons. If there was another way to empower this commission, we've tried a couple of avenues to do that, and they haven't been effective. So that might be one way to kind of combine influence and you'd have the opportunity to educate them and vice versa. So
Do you ever have like joint subcommittees between parks and environmental? I mean, is that possible?
I don't know.
You know, like we have subcommittee that was talking about buck thorn.
Yep.
Okay, we formed that, but I don't know, can you have a joint subcommittee if there is, you know, whatever the next topic is, that would be good to have expertise from both sides together. Can you have a cross-commission joint subcommittee or whatever it would be called?
To talk about this, is that what you're asking?
To talk about, say, the next park.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, 2 folks from here and 2 folks from parks are on this subcommittee, and then, you know.
We can see how the cross-function.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's allowed for
I will
the
ask.
city.
As a full body, you're allowed to meet together. We would just have to notice appropriately. To have a subcommittee with members of both, that probably would have to be enabled by Common Council. So
Maybe there could be a subcommittee for each, and they just meet at the same time.
potentially, and that is something I will ask.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
So I have a question. The administrative separation that you're talking about, and especially now that you say, you know, pickleball is the draw. I play pickleball in Pleasant View and at the middle school, and and at Lions Legend. I mean, I know this group of people. It's a very, very large group of people, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. To me, when I hear you say that pickleball is the draw for Parks and Rec, I just wonder if the assignments of who gets what court when they're open to the public versus when they're open to a club or, you know, the rec department or something. I understand why that's in Parks and Rec's commission, but it seems like a lot of that is more about the administration, scheduling, and then just really what are the rules that need to be followed when scheduling. And if that could be worked out to discuss whether Tina so-and-so gets pickleball courts in Pleasant View would be eliminated. I mean, that seems like a silly waste of a lot of people's time, because that is more about competing for working a pickleball court, where if you have a set of structured rules of what kind of clubs get precedent and how this is done, then that can be done administratively outside of any kind of commission.
Yep, I completely agree. They have been discussing how to do that. So what happened effectively was that with the popularity of pickleball, a number of groups made reservations, wanted to do these like multi-date reservations. There's no fees being charged for the facilities currently, so it got referred to the Parks Commission and just kind of snowballed. So now they are in the process of setting up a set of policies. Because we don't have permitting software, which is another issue, that is part of what Parks Commission is trying to work through. They want to make a recommendation related to software and staffing so that they are not making those kinds of administrative decisions, because it is not a good use of their time. They're with you. They should be making policy decisions and not reviewing individual permits.
So once that's done, are you still thinking that pickleball is the big draw to the Parks and Rec Commission?
No. I genuinely, that was like the thing, was there were a couple of pickleball people that just kept coming to ask for facilities and stuff like that. They're very engaged in general and have good feedback, but like genuinely it was like, I think, a draw. So, and there's a variety of like past membership have had all kinds of reasons to be interested in the commission, just like you guys have all kinds of reasons to be interested in this commission. But it is, it's just higher profile, really. So.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with it either way. honestly.
We can make it work.
Yeah.
Okay, any other items to discuss? Next meeting scheduled for February 28th.
You will have a natural resource special exception at that meeting.
All right.
I did not include a refresher on the natural resource protection standards for this meeting, but I may send out, I have just like a quick guide that I've presented before with references to the ordinance if you want to go look at what the current code is. But for those of you that have not reviewed one before, what will happen is there will be, you'll receive in your packets, you'll get a paper packet this time. It will have a printed copy of a staff report and all of the information related to the application, the applicant's drawings, etc. And then I will present the city's review of the application with discussion of the different aspects of it, what the ordinance requires, etc. The applicant will be present, make a presentation as well. And then you will make a recommendation to Plan Commission and the Common Council, which is a document, a legislative document that I produce for you to make a motion on and adopt. So recommending or approval or denial of the natural resource special exception and any conditions that you think are appropriate. So I can't get into the details of the item at this time, but just be prepared for it's going to be a little bit of a technical meeting. So it could be fun.
Absolutely will be fun.
I have one final thing. I just want to, I'm sorry, I don't mean to backtrack, but I'm just thinking at some point in the future, when you do develop, you know, your final information about combining the two commissions, do you think it would be beneficial to have a joint meeting to talk about that so that we could at least, you know, be in the room with the other commission and see what the thoughts are?
Idea. I think the Parks Commission would probably find it useful as well. I don't know how anyone feels about having an extra meeting. So,
well, I just think so we understand, like, here's the things that we look at and do versus what you look at and do, and here's how environmental could accentuate what is happening in our parks, you know, and then whatever they might think about this commission or not think about it at all.
Well, I think
still...
I think your last suggestion about that controlled burn in
Yeah.
I forget which park it was, that I think
Yep.
that right there
Victory
is
Creek.
like a perfect nexus point of where the two would align and saying like, well, we as the Parks Department, that's not whatever. It's a plant. It grows over there. Whereas from the environmental vision of this is why this would be a really great thing. Here's to expand knowledge base. Here's to like just have an educational moment for the public as a whole, and being able to do that so that way we're able to kind of forward that sort of agenda of being able to say, not just, excuse me, spend it to me, but instead of it just being Mark Beckman's backyard where he's got it growing alongside of his house, but rather here's how it applies to the city as a whole,
Yeah.
and being able, and especially in one of our parks, and how we're able to kind of remedy in a very eco-friendly and a very thoughtful manner, and being able to educate, like I said, residents on how to take care of this on their own terms. Maybe not, you know, burning it out, but being able to talk about here's how you would do this at home. What are the steps to prevent the grow back of it? So,
Or even if, I get 100% what you're saying, just to get the community support too, to understand like why that would be a good tool to have in the toolbox. Yeah, we talked about that and then we didn't meet for 3 months. And I don't know if we're going to revisit that ever again either, but
Remind me of the item.
seasonal burn. It was related to the mowing, and so, yeah, it was when we still had the other members. That's how long ago it was, and It was Pleasant View Park, right? Which park was it?
Victory Creek
It
is
was
the
Victory.
one. Yeah.
Victory Creek.
Added another natural fire breaker line.
And there was just one, if I recall, there was one road that had homes with backyards, but other than that, there was fairly
Lot of
decent
natural
fire
roads.
breaks throughout with trails and
There's
stuff.
a creek to the south of all of that
Mhm.
because that conservancy is part of the floodplain, a lot of it. And then, yeah, there's a couple of neighborhoods that are backing up to the area, but then there's woodlands between a lot of it. It's pretty contained. So
Yeah.
I can include just the the commission also would like to discuss burn methods in the NOMO May memo because that it's a perennial question that comes up.
Yeah, and it was at the time they were talking about mowing it or they'd like to burn it. But if I recall, it was the homeowners that lived there were opposed to burning or worried about having their house start on fire because their backyard. It's been so long, I can't remember exactly. But yeah, I think we should revisit that. But that is a prime example of where it's in a park, but it's not really a recreational issue. It's more of an environmental conservation issue.
Yeah, those lands are actually under a conservation easement by MMSD, so they're owned by the city, and within an easement, they're part of their flood mitigation program. So Pleasant View Park is a city park that's programmed and has a site plan and all that, but the trails, there's a wetland in the middle of that kind of prairie, and then most of it, not all of it, is under a conservation easement. So.
So do we want an agenda item for next month? And if so, talking about, do we want someone from Public Works or what's the scope of our issue?
I guess right now in my mind, I was thinking that I was kind of punting to you, Marion, just as far as you're beginning the research. Are we ready to meet? Do you need another month of kind of?
I do.
And then maybe in next meeting we talk about formulating a agenda item and where to go from there when she has a little more of the background information.
Okay. That works.
And if it's still being entertained as an option of combining the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as
Yeah.
I keep working on this, it's like, what are the land management best practices? Because as the city continues to expand the park system, the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan actually contains a lot of conservation areas. We will be revising that document in the future, but the conservation easements on the lands that the city is acquiring won't change. So having a plan for how to manage them will become part of the parks. So.
And thinking about all of the lands that the city manages as a whole is the best environmental way to look at that environment too. So instead of here's what we have here and let's talk about this here and then here's what we have over here and let's talk about this with a different group of people, it really should be managed as a whole and not treated as different individual fragments of conservation areas. So, to me, that's a reason to combine the two commissions right there.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, meeting adjourned, 7:55.